Hey guys, my name is Jared Skye. I am one of the judges for this year's TRP Month of Independence Challenge. I have been a judge on the previous two incarnations of the TRP challenges, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. You guys always submit such story-rich, really interesting and creative content that it makes it really exciting to do it, so I'm glad to be doing it again. One thing that the judges are doing differently this year is that we are creating a sort of tutorial series covering some of the basic aspects of, creating a good, well put together film for submission in the contest. Now, what I'm going to cover here are very basic cinematography techniques that pretty much anybody that's entering this competition can do without the use of any kind of special tools or anything fancy like a nice big track dolly or something like that. I mean, these are very simple, very basic, very foundational compositional things that can significantly impact the watchability and the interest of the visual cues in your short. Now, the first thing I'm going to cover here is what many people would probably consider to be like the most foundational, the most basic compositional rule in photography, cinematography, and that's something called the rule of thirds. You basically take the field of view of your camera and you break it into thirds, into segments of 3. The idea is that anything that falls along where those lines cross or on those lines themselves is generally going to look more appealing or more visually interesting to the viewer. The second thing that I want to talk about is something called leading lines. Now, leading lines are exceptionally good at creating interest in a short, especially a low-budget short that doesn't have access to a whole lot of tools, because you really don't need anything expensive to do it. You can use a countertop, a tabletop, you can use sticks aligned in a certain way, you can use a road. A leading line is basically just something that guides the viewer's eyes to something specific that the filmmaker wants them to look at. One of the great things about leading lines is that they're very simple to use, they're cheap because everybody's got access to leading lines, and they can have a pretty dramatic impact on how interesting your shot looks. And the last thing I'm going to talk about here is something called foreground interest. Now, foreground interest is essentially just something that's in the foreground of the shot between the camera and the subject of the shot that sort of fills in the frame a little bit or creates some sort of space or the feeling of space, three-dimensional space between your viewer and your subject. Now, it's very difficult for a lot of indie productions, especially very run-and-gun productions who don't have a lot of access to really nice lighting materials or don't really know a whole lot about lighting. It's hard for them to make their images pop off the screen, you know what I mean? And while this won't totally fix it, and it should be used sparingly, to be perfectly honest, the use of foreground interest can have a pretty major impact on how much the scene pops, on the way that characters express themselves, on the way that the camera can be used as a tool to progress the storyline of your story. And that's sort of what I'm trying to get across with this here, is that the camera isn't just a tool that you use to document what's going on in front of it. The camera is a tool that you can use to drive your story. It's something that you can use to tell your story. The creative use of different shots, angles, different compositional elements can have a pretty major impact on the way that your story looks and the way that it comes off to viewers. And as a quick note, the same can be said for lighting. When you're lighting a scene, you're going to want to make sure that you expose what you want to expose, but in the end, you shouldn't be afraid of shadows, you shouldn't be afraid of things being dark, you shouldn't be afraid of uneven lighting. You should just want to make it look natural, you'd want to make it look, interesting, and you'd want to make it something that sort of highlights the things that you want to highlight. But beyond that, there's nothing wrong with embracing shadows. There are a lot of great movies and TV shows with really great cinematographers that know a hell of a lot more about this stuff than I probably ever will, and they love the use of shadows because shadows they're great. They add texture, they add depth, they add dimension to shots. You just you want to be able to use these things not even just sparingly, but in an intelligent way that actually tells the story, which is basically what this is all about. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Sign up, have fun, sign your friends up, sign up dead people and say that they signed up. Just, do whatever. Get as many people as you can to sign up so we can have a huge competition. It'll be a really great time, and we're all really excited to see what you guys submit this time around. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helped even a little bit. Oh yeah, and there are links below to tutorials that can go significantly more in depth than I possibly ever could in this little introductory video. And they're often by people who know a hell of a lot more about this than I do. So, thank you for watching.